Good afternoon, everybody. How are we doing today? We made it to April. It is draft month officially. We are now in the draft month for the NFL and still got like 4 weeks between now and then, so plenty of time to cover more ground, and we will, but it's also the time when the rumors start to really go into overdrive, where the linking of players to teams and teams to players really starts to accelerate, and you start to hear a lot of things about how, oh, this team really likes this player is getting heavily linked to that team, and a lot of it is just rumors for the sake of having something to talk about. A lot of it is smoke screens, but there is some good stuff in there. And as we get closer to the draft, as we start to move past the free agency period, with the Seahawks basically done, I don't think the Seahawks are going to do a whole lot more. You might see one or two more things, like bringing back Geno Smith or bringing Akeem Hicks, but I think we're mostly done. So now we're going to turn our focus to the draft and possibly a Metcalf extension. But the main focus is, of course, going to be the draft. So with the Seahawks actually having a top 10 pick this year, we can start to get a feel for who they're focusing in on. It's easier because the list of players you are going to have available to you at a top 10 pick is a lot more clear cut than if you don't. Sometimes you don't even have a first round pick. Sometimes you have a first round pick in the late 20s. It's hard to guess who's going to even be available by then because there are so many different monkey wrenches that can get tossed in. But when you have the number 9 pick, it's a little easier to project the players you might be able to pick from. So, as this team shows interest in the top level players in this draft, it becomes a little easier to guess who they're targeting and who they might be able to get. So, we got this tweet earlier today from Jim Nagy. All 32 teams are at the Oregon Pro Day, mostly for Thibodeaux and Verone McKinley. He particularly singled out the fact that the Lions and Seahawks sent 7 people. So that's a big group. And the Giants sent 5. All 32 teams were there, but those 3 teams in particular were heavily interested in the proceeds. Now, Verone McKinley is, I don't know if he's really on this team's radar. Positionally, I don't know how much sense it makes. We'll probably talk about him at some point, but the real guy that is going to get people's attention as it pertains to the Seahawks is going to be the first name, Kayvon Thibodeaux. So it sounds like the Seahawks are targeting him. And the reasons why they might be targeting Thibodeaux are pretty obvious. He is great for a 3-4 outside linebacker. Going to be awesome alongside Darrell Taylor. He's going to be... I'm not going to say that he's a sure thing. He does have some bust potential. I don't think he's a lock-it-up future Pro Bowler, but his upside is tremendous. He did great stuff at Oregon. He is a phenomenal athlete. Phenomenal. And he projects to go in that top 10. So you put it all together, you take a look at the Seahawks' current team needs, where they have a need for more pass rush. They have a need for another outside linebacker in this new defense. It lines up. So, as of right now, I think that you could say that Kayvon Thibodeaux is a little bit of a clubhouse leader to be selected at number 9 overall by the Seahawks based off the interest the team has. Now, that's half the question. The other half is he going to be available for us at our pick? Because even though we have a high pick, it's still number 9. There are still 8 picks in front of us. So, are the Seahawks actually going to have a chance to take a guy like Thibodeaux, who, by the way, like 6 months ago was projected to be the number 1 overall pick? Yeah, now, things have happened. He didn't have an amazing final year at Oregon. He did not great at the combine. Nothing too alarming, but he didn't have a great combine. Guys like Aiden Hutchinson clearly surpassed him in terms of draft interest. So there's been a couple things that have happened that have allowed him to potentially fall out of that top 5, maybe even down to the bottom of the top 10. But let's analyze this a little bit. And Thibodeaux, the player, I'm going to talk more about him in an upcoming video, so we're going to save that for later. But just talking about the possibility of getting him, to me, it really all comes down to what Jacksonville does at number 1 with regards to Aidan Hutchinson versus Travon Walker. So, Travon Walker has become a recent rumored number 1 overall pick. Like, Jacksonville could come in off the top rope and surprise everybody with Travon Walker being made the number 1 pick, even though Hutchinson was supposed to be the slam dunk home run number 1 guy. So, if Jacksonville takes Travon Walker from Georgia at number 1 overall, then I feel like that can cause a chain reaction to allow Thibodeaux and maybe even some other equally tantalizing players to fall down to us. So let's talk this through real quick. Let's just talk through the scenario real quick and see what we can get. So let's say Jacksonville takes Travon Walker. And let's say Detroit, even though they're indicating they're not interested in a quarterback, let's say they take a quarterback. Let's say they get Malik Willis. Let's say they get whatever quarterback they like the most. Let's say it's Malik Willis. And then let's say Houston takes Kyle Hamilton because they need a safety now, and Kyle Hamilton may be the best player in this draft overall, so let's say they get Kyle Hamilton. And then we get to the Jets, and this, to me, is kind of the pivot point of the draft for whether or not the Seahawks are going to be able to get Thibodeaux. Because if the Jaguars took Hutchinson, then I think the Jets are very likely to take Thibodeaux. But if the Jaguars draft Walker and Detroit takes a quarterback, then I think the Jets are probably going to be the team that takes Aidan Hutchinson. They would be thrilled to get probably a top 2 prospect in this draft at number 4 overall. So if things break that way for the Jets, I think they get Hutchinson. And then it becomes a lot more realistic that you will see Thibodeaux fall out of that top 5. The Giants have 2 picks in the top 7. I think it's basically guaranteed that one of those picks is going to go to cornerback because the Giants are very thin at cornerback and they're indicating they're going to try to move James Bradberry. So it's going to depend on who they prefer between Stingley and Sauce. But one of those picks is probably going to be a cornerback. I think it's going to be Sauce, but it could be Stingley just as easily. Carolina, they seem to really like Kenny Pickett. So if Carolina goes Kenny Pickett, they kind of need to go offense anyway. They've invested a lot of their recent draft capital into defense. So let's say they go Kenny Pickett, and then the Giants' other pick, I've heard they're going to take a tackle, but it doesn't make any sense for me anyway for them to take Charles Cross or Ikwanwu unless they plan to play them at right tackle. So to me, the guy is probably Evan Neal. So I think the Giants get Evan Neal in that scenario, and then that gets you down to Atlanta. And in this case, I'm not 100% sure what Atlanta could do. They need a quarterback, but would they be willing to reach for a guy like a Desmond Ridder at number 8? That doesn't sound like something that would be the right thing to do, but maybe they would feel like they need to. Obviously, they would have their pick of the the left tackles with Cross and Ikwanwu. So they could go Thibodeaux, but honestly, that Atlanta team needs a lot of stuff. They have a lot of issues. They may reach for that quarterback. So if Atlanta goes like Ikwanwu, then you get down to Seattle's pick, and Thibodeaux is still there. So that is one potential path for Thibodeaux to fall to number 9. However, if Jacksonville does do the typically accepted, sane thing to do, if the Jaguars take Hutchinson number 1 overall, as most people still expect, then it becomes a lot harder because even then, if the Lions take a quarterback, even if the Texans still take Hamilton, I think the Jets might swoop in on Thibodeaux there. I think that they're going to want to spend this number 4 pick on a defensive player. I don't think they're going to do it on a cornerback. So Thibodeaux becomes a little bit of a clubhouse leader for me at number 4 if Hutchinson goes number 1. The main thing that could prevent that would be if the Jets decide to take a corner like Stingley or Sauce, and then presumably everything in the rest of the draft kind of proceeds as previously laid out. But if the Jaguars take Hutchinson, I just feel like the odds of Thibodeaux falling to number 9 go down significantly. But both could certainly happen. Teams surprise you all the time in the draft. You might see a team like, I don't know, probably none of the teams that are immediately below Seattle's pick would be so hungry for Thibodeaux they would trade up to snipe us. But I do think that the odds of Thibodeaux falling to Seattle are somewhere around 50%. I think it's a little bit of a coin flip. And look, there are some players in this draft who I would rather have than Thibodeaux, like, say, a Charles Cross. But if we got Thibodeaux, I would certainly have nothing to complain about. But that's the path as I see it right now. Jacksonville, please take Travon Walker. Detroit and Atlanta, please take a quarterback. We already kind of know Carolina is likely going to take a quarterback. And Houston, please take Hamilton. If those things happen, then I believe things are going to click into place. And Seattle will get the guy that they seem to be targeting more than anyone else at this moment. Obviously, all could be a smokescreen. All could just be the Seahawks messing around to throw teams off the scent. Teams do that all the time, especially at this time of year. But that's how I would lay things out right now. And there's no doubt that Thibodeaux would be a great fit for this defense. So that's what I got right now. Let me know what you guys think. Would you be excited to bring on Thibodeaux at the number 9 overall pick? I certainly would be. I would be down with that. And we'll talk more about Thibodeaux, the player, in a few days. But for now, I'm out of here. Go Hawks. See you guys later.